Hi there. Welcome back to Empowerment Junction podcast, where I share valuable insights focused on growth mindset and tools to live the life we all desire. Such a beautiful day in Manchester, England, and we've really been blessed with glorious weather today. It's been raining a lot in Manchester if you live in Manchester. Now, as I enjoy my time working in the garden today, I was also reading this book called Bag Lady. And I had a question from a client about embracing the lessons of failure. And I wanted to talk about lessons in failure, and as well to share this to encourage you to go to the library if you live in Manchester or any other library. I'm sure it will be all the other library. Such an inspiring story from this Lisa D. Foster, and it's called "How I Started a Business for a Greener World and Changed the Way America Shops." And it's all about the difference she's made in the world in terms of sustainability and ensuring that a lot of businesses are thinking more greener, and how she started encouraging businesses to consider the reusing of plastic bags. So anyway, that's that. So as I was enjoying my time working in the garden, watching the butterflies, dancing and listening to the birds sing, days like this so just reminded me how blessed we all are with such beautiful moments like this, and the resilience we can find within ourselves. And I felt like I should do a short clip and discuss about embracing the lessons of failure. A lot of people I know, and a number of people, even myself, I've come across failures in many different formats and many different ways. And I'm sure you've heard of that phrase that says, feel the failure and do it anyway. Now, it's easy to say when you're not the one facing the fear. Or rather, I beg your pardon, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's a very quick thing to consider that when you're faced with fear, your first reaction is to think and look at it as a negative. Now, today I want to try and help you look at it as a positive, particularly if you have to step into a new project or a new environment or something new that you're not used to. So I'll start by saying, for those who don't know me, my name is Olivia Bassi. I host the Empowerment Junction podcast. I share valuable insights and inspire curiosity by revisiting various knowledge books. I've transitioned into a coach. I'm from the education sector. I've been working in the education sector for over 15 years as a qualified teacher. Went to work into the exams board, and I was very much motivated and inspired to try and help others understand how to achieve certain breakthroughs in their lives, and that's why I'm here. So on today's topic, I wanted to discuss a question from a client who asked me, or who said, this was the question, this is how they posted it: I know that I need to make a shift in my life and I want to make that shift, but I'm paralyzed by fear. And the question was, how do I overcome my fears? Now, this is a question I get asked a lot. And it's a question I used to ask a lot myself on my journey to growing and learning. I'm always learning, and there's always an open door for learning for me. And I wanted to address this question of how I face and how I think we should face our fears. Now, fear pops up anytime we feel uncertain, or from my experience, and I know that for many people as well, it's perfectly natural. We might fear judgment, failure, success. Yes, I do know people fear success. I've been there many times. Or rather, success presents itself as the unknown. Now, what you'll find is you're afraid of what will happen. Or a lot of us, you think to yourself, I'm afraid of what will happen if I do X, Y, and Z. But you already know what will happen if you don't do it. Yes, you do. You will stay stuck right where you are. So what's scarier, taking the leap into the unknown or looking back in 5 years to realize you're still exactly where you are? For me, I feel of the many other books that I've shared with my listeners of the community that's growing now, and the many inspiring speakers that I know, one quote resonates deeply when I think about being stuck, or if I stayed in the same position where I was 5 years. Many people know me, particularly when it came to jobs. After 2 years, I'd be thinking, if there's no growth opportunity for me here, it's time to move on. And that's how I operated. And it's got me to this stage where I feel very comfortable and confident to try and launch something on my own. And it's been those growth opportunities, despite feeling the fear, that has got me to this stage. Now, Les Brown quote states, too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. Now, when we feel fear, it's because we often look at failure as an ending instead of a starting point. I've done it so many times. You're afraid and you're thinking this is the end, instead of thinking, what about if I take that leap and see what's on the other side? Now, many feel that if they fail, it's the end of the road. But what if you turn that around and saw failure as an opportunity for growth? You could say, for example, hey, now I know what doesn't work, so I don't have to waste any more time doing that. Failure is inevitable on the way to success. Ask many successful people. Read their books. As you know, I do read a lot of books. I do read a lot of biographies. Even now, as I was reading The Bag Lady. It's a common thief. Failure is inevitable on the way to success. It's unlikely that we will do everything 100% correctly the first time. And that's okay, even the 100 times. It's unlikely that you'll do anything 100% correctly. We are not here for perfection. We are here to get to the next stage. The next stage does not have to be perfect. It just needs to make sure that you're moving, you're focusing on the action. And that's okay. So, question for you. Do you think that the most successful people just woke up one day at the top of their industries? Of course no. Go on Instagram if you know one of them. Follow them and they'll tell you their stories. They failed. The more they failed, the more they learned, and the more successful they became. They didn't give up. And that's the trick. They didn't give up. They learned from what didn't work and found better ways of doing things. Now, I know really successful people fail forward. They use their failures as a feedback and are willing to fail over and over again. I, personally, have failed over and over again. And I've taken those as my lessons or a redirection for something better. I've already shared the many times where I felt discouraged, the many times where I felt I couldn't go on, the many times I felt I haven't got any more fight left in me. But look at where I am. I still got up. So I have failed over and over again, and successful people, from keeping an eye and reading and following some of them, keep taking the leap because they are that committed to achieving their dreams and goals. Now, one person who I know and being a big fan is the president, President Barack Obama. When I read his story, and I started reading his story from years ago before he became the president, and where he's up to now, and the fact that he lost many times being elected, and when you understand the way American politics work, he's not the only one. There are many other examples I could use, but that's the one that just came to the forefront of my mind now. If you read his story about his failure and where he started from, not having a father figure, going back to Kenya to revisit his roots, his mother coming from Hawaii, and up to him going to Harvard and then discussing with his wife at that time, Michelle Obama, that he wants to get into politics and run for governor, and from governor to the stage up to being president. There was a lot of failure. There was a lot of times where, reading his autobiography, where he states he didn't get along, or he didn't get along with his wife because he wasn't even meeting the basic needs of the life he'd promised his wife, which is the finances in the house, or looking after the daughters that they had, and living in a very small apartment. So in a way, I think that's encouraging to think that somebody like this could get to the step where they have, but because they learned to fail forward, and they learned to fail over and over again. So what I take from this is he was successful because he kept on taking the leap, and he was committed to achieving his dreams and goals. And that for me is a key. Are you committed to achieving your dreams and goals? So which means if you are, failure doesn't mean you are bad or that you're stuck at what you do. You might have things you could be better at. Now we all do. I've talked about the many blessings. Allowing failure to teach you what you don't know also tells you what you do know. What parts of the project did you do right? Now, you know you want to build upon it. Take those parts that work and correct the parts that don't. That is the secret of success from what I've found out. You will find many times there's a lot of things that are working and there are a lot of things that are not working. The ones that are not working, move away from those very quickly. Try. The secret is you try. Don't stay in the same place. Try. Fail. You can pause if you want. After pausing, or you can course correct. Try again. Now, this is how failing forward works. It allows you to make necessary adjustments and keep going. I have failed many times. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I've failed. What makes me successful in something is that I keep going. I fail forward. I always fail forward. And it's what has brought me to this stage. I'll give another example. So when I started the Empowerment Junction podcast, my first episode, if you listen to it, had a background music. And if from an editing point of view, I quickly realized it's very poor editing. And perhaps at that time, because that was my first episode of recording, I was afraid of how people perceive how I sound like. And perhaps I wanted to use the background music to hide my voice because I was still afraid of my voice. And I was almost paralyzed thinking, oof, I don't think I like the sound of that. So I tried to hide behind the background music. I quickly realized after feedback and accepting the positive criticism that a lot of my listeners and those who are very kind to me gave to me, I quickly edited that music out on my next episodes and I stuck to a theme and a format that I felt worked. And I've seen the audience grow and I've seen various responses. So I think, in a way, I quickly learned, number one, I failed forward by realizing very, very quickly that doesn't work. It's not going to get more audience because they can't hear what I'm saying. And the next most important thing is I accepted the sound of my voice. This is how I sound. I cannot change who I am. I'm not going to sound like Oprah Winfrey as an example, because she's Oprah. I'm Olivia. I've got to sound as myself. There's nobody else like me, and there's nobody else like her. And it's about thinking, where are you and what would you like and what would you want from that project as an example? Or what would you like from that point where you want to move on to the next stage? And if it's fear that's stopping you, ask yourself, what's going to be on the other side if I do it anyway? So I quickly found out that yes, I wanted to start this podcast years ago, but I was afraid. And I quickly learned very, very, very quickly that number one, I didn't want to stay in toxic workplaces. So I realized I need to get out and establish myself so I don't end up in such workplaces. And look where I am now. I'm learning to be self-resilient and depend on my own means rather than rely on an employee who perhaps might look at me as a threat because I've got various skills. So I took the leap, and this is where I am. And that's why I'm encouraging you that you may not be always comfortable where you are in life, and you will not always be able to solve all your problems at once, but don't ever underestimate the importance you can have, because as history or the people before us have shown us that courage, number one, can be contagious, and it can take you and it can take a life on its own. And that's why I'm encouraging you to have the courage to do it anyway. Now, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever felt frozen when you're on a stage, in front of a camera, or even on a Zoom call? This happens a lot, particularly now we're using technology a lot, and thought, oh, I was so bad. I mean, I've had this happen to me so many times as a teacher, as a tutor, as a trainer. And when it does, when I first started teaching, or when I was first doing my teacher training, I used to sometimes freeze and think, it's the end, I've done something bad. And some of the times, what I came to realize, some of the times this were out of my control. A student misbehaving in a class when you're being observed is almost out of your control, but it's how you react to that moment. That's where the observation comes in. That's where you judge from that. So in the years, I learned that things will happen beyond my control. But as long as I refocus to the project or where I am and learn from that very quickly, then I can come back a bit more stronger. Now, when I say this has happened to me, and when it does, I've always found that I have two choices. Number one, I can be afraid to try again, or I can say, I was bad, but I got up, I tried, I took action. So what I'm trying to say is focus on what you did right. You did something many people never even try. So if it wasn't perfect, or so what if it wasn't perfect? You are still in the game. You are still here. You can still try. Tomorrow is another day. In fact, not even tomorrow. The next hour, you can get back up and try again. Yes, you're probably going to be scared, and that is normal. Your brain, this is how the brain works. It will tell you all the things you did wrong. Yes. I remember my podcast episodes, the first episode, you were telling me everything sounded wrong. But I kept on persevering. But if you can just stop and think about what you did right, you will be able to try again. And that's what I did. So focus on what you did right, because your brain, because you're scared, fear will take over and it will tell you everything is wrong. So I need you to reshift that and focus. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to refocus. I will say part of the tips is let fear be just another feeling. Let it be like compassion, love, joy, and just look at it like fear is just a feeling. It's not bad. Our feelings, as we've already discussed, part of your emotions, part of your intuition, part of your discernment, they give us feedback. You will know in your heart when you're feeling that fear, in your stomach is going around in circles and just you're feeling a little bit anxious and sweaty. It's up to us to tune into that and learn from it or quit. Now, I hope you learn from it. I love it when one of my friends at the gym always asks me, because I discuss many of my projects with a few people. Sometimes people I meet at the gym, because they're very good. I find that a lot of people in the gym are very motivated with various projects. So I tend to share a number of my ideas with a few people I know. So one of my friends always asks me, if I feel fear, what's on the other side of fear? And that's another tip there. Ask yourself, what's on the other side of fear? What new project, what new success, what new income, what new life experiences, or what new discovery, or what new travels, or what new people, or what new exploration, or what new love, even better, is on the other side. Now, many people are paralyzed by fear, and it's very common. We let it freeze our actions. It happens to me as well. I've given you the examples. Don't let fear freeze you. Instead, figure out what you need to learn to grow. Ask questions. Find out who knows the answer and ask them. Do whatever research and homework you need to do. Take action despite the fear, because we are always going to feel fear. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. The difference between successful people and those who don't succeed is whether they can make friends with fear and keep going. And this is what I found out. Make friends with fear. Embrace it. And let it be your friend instead of the opposite. Stop and ask yourself right now, where is fear holding me back? Answer this question honestly for yourself. Where is fear holding you back in your life? Think about what would happen if that fear came true. What would really happen? And then ask yourself, how could you fail forward at that moment? Plan for it. If that fear comes true, your next action will be, what's next? Now, when you make a plan of action in case of failure, you don't have to be paralyzed by it. You know the next step. You can bounce back stronger and wiser. So the next step would be, really, I would encourage you to make a mantra for failure. And it works in so many ways. It could be something like this. Write it on a post-it note, put it on your phone, put it where it's visible, where you can see it every day. And this is quite important if you're doubting whether you want to start that project, or you want to move on to the next stage, or you want to move jobs, or whatever it is. Write this mantra down. Failure is my teacher. Failure is my friend. Once you write that down, I want you to plaster that mantra everywhere you will see it, on the bathroom mirror, in your car, on your desk, and keep repeating it to yourself until you believe it. Over and over again. When you wake up, you need to be looking at that mantra. I believe it, because it's happened for me time and time again. Failure is my best teacher, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't failed forward so many times, because it taught me how to be better and better. And I'm sure it will do the same for you. So, think about what you're going to write about, failure or fear. Post it in the comments. Share your big ahas with our community, because that's what we are building here, what we are planning to build, a community where we can hold each other through failure and remind each other to keep failing forward. And I'd like to encourage you. You might have stopped here for 5 minutes, or it might be your first time here. I'd like to invite you to do that now And let's keep building this beautiful family. And I also like to encourage you to click on the notification bell so you know what new videos are being posted. And like and subscribe, because I don't want you to miss out on a thing. I feel it's quite important to conclude by saying we've shared this space for the past 3-4 months since I launched this channel, or just a few minutes that you stopped here if you're new here. I want you to know that I believe in you and you're investing in yourself, and I believe you will see some results if you deploy the tips and strategies I've shared about failure. And most likely, I want to encourage you to look at failure as your friend. And I want to thank you so much for dropping in. Thank you so much for those who've subscribed. And thank you so much for those who are just passing by. It's good to see you all again. I hope to see you real soon in the next episode. Bye for now.